so I thought I was going to do a Fire Emblem Fortunes Weave video, and trust me, I'm still going to do a Fire Emblem Fortunes Weave video. It's coming up. I have a lot that I want to say about that game, the pricing, physical, digital, and all sorts of things, but we have to get back to what's going on with Xenoblade Genesis. Multiple new, I would say, updates to talk about this game when it comes to who's going to be working on it, the style of the game, and some interesting ties to past Monolith soft titles that are maybe potentially mind-blowing here with what Xenoblade Genesis is doing. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Okay, starting off on Twitter, shout out to my man Stealth. A lot of information coming through from him. The first thing that we're going to look at is the music. One of the biggest things that makes a Xenoblade game, and why it's so impactful is the music in the game, and this one looks like it's going to be an absolute banger when it comes to the music, because you've got some of the legends that are working on this, some of the greatest of all time. On Twitter, Stealth says that Yasunori Mitsuda is the lead composer of Xenoblade Genesis. You guys know him, you guys love him. He's done so much awesome Xenoblade, Final Fantasy, and Square Enix Chrono Trigger, all sorts of stuff. This guy is a legend, and he is back. Also, Miriam A from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 3, Manami Kiyota from Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3 are also on the team, with Yuna doing the choral vocals. Now, the soundtrack is going to be as ridiculously good as all the other games, and I have to agree, this is one of the most important things, and it's definitely not cheap getting all of these people to do this, but I think that some of the stuff that we saw from Yasunori Mitsuda and also other people, I kind of had a feeling that they were working on something, and maybe it could be revealed. Now, I didn't think it was going to be revealed this early, but I think that Nintendo pretty much kind of had to kind of get things ready, because they did Xenoblade Chronicles 1, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and Xenoblade Chronicles X when it comes to Switch 2 editions all in the same year. So if you're dropping all those, give us Xenoblade fans just a little bit of a bone, you know, just give us something, because if you're working on it anyway, that might be a good time to hype people up, get people ready, and let people know, hey, time is paramount here. Like, the game's coming out next year. You might want to get cracking on these games if you have not played them, if you have not finished them, and now you can enjoy them in silky smooth 60 FPS on the Nintendo Switch 2 with those Xenoblade Chronicles upgrades. And I just want to point out another little thing here. The Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Switch 2 Edition upgrade pack is #1. At least it reached #1 at one point yesterday. It might be different now, but it reached #1 when it comes to the sales on the Switch 2 eShop, and the full game reached as high as #4 on the Switch 2 eShop here in the US. And I know I saw some reports like in the UK, it might be up there like in the top 5 and stuff too. So definitely a good thing to see. People are getting back into the Xenoblade swing of things. Okay, another thing when it comes to this game, this is probably not a surprise with this one, but I want to just make sure that we're all clear on what's happening here with the direction of Xenoblade Genesis. Stealth on Twitter once again says Tetsuya Takahashi is the executive director of Xenoblade Genesis. He is the chief creative officer at Monolith Soft and held the executive director position on Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, 3, and X, which, by the way, real quick here, that's probably the order that you should play the games in if you are looking to get into the series. Just play it in order there, 1, 2, 3, and then X. He's the heart of Xenoblade and the one you want leading the team. And absolutely, Monolith Soft, the production team 1, that is the team. That is the team that you know that you want at the heart of Xenoblade games and making the games as memorable and as legendary as they are. Flaws and all. There's always little quirks here and there with Xenoblade games, but at the same time, some of it gives it its charm when it comes down to that. Now, there has been some misconceptions when it comes to Monolith Soft and kind of what they do. They have a couple different teams there, and 2 of the other teams, they handle outside games of the studio. So Nintendo's games, obviously Nintendo owns Monolith Soft entirely now at this point. But the 2 other teams that they have there, they help out with Splatoon and Animal Crossing, Legend of Zelda. Whereas this team with Takahashi, he is the one with his core group of people making this. The reason why we get so many Xenoblades, or more like the reason why we get consistent Xenoblade games, is because of efficiency. Monolith Soft has 300 people that are employed at the studio, but not all 300 plus people are simply working on just one thing at a time. They've got a lot of different things that they're doing in addition to being as efficient with massive RPGs that can rival Final Fantasy when it comes to content and everything. Maybe not as much in production value and all of that, but it's still pretty good. They can rival that at a fraction of the cost and put out a game that's going to be profitable, which we know that Monolith Soft is a profitable subsidiary of Nintendo. So I think that's the reason why we consistently get things. It doesn't have any problems. They have a good work culture. They consistently get great games going, and it fills a gap that Nintendo hasn't quite been able to do themselves over the years. Don't get me wrong, they've got some good RPGs and stuff when it comes down to it, but Monolith Soft provides something different. They provide something efficient. They provide something that can get you Game of the Year consideration, or up there talking with the heart and core of the gamers, to make the appeal of the system a lot better, alongside the other stuff that comes out, like the big heavy hitting franchises, Mario, Zelda, Smash Brothers, all of that. So that's the reason why we're still getting Xenoblade games. That's the reason why Nintendo has faith in them. Tetsuya Takahashi is the man to lead them. Now, I want to get into some other things here that people are starting to find out. The deep analysis of the trailer is revealing there could be some more ties to a previous Monolith Soft GOAT rated game, and that is Xenogears. Shout outs to, I think it's Zephia over on Twitter. They kind of noticed something here which kind of slipped my mind. And in the trailer, you see this like wolf mount that you have in the game that looks very similar to this wolf enemy that's attacking you in Xenogears. So what's going on there? Is there something? And I would say this, there might be. Maybe there's some type of evolution of those animals that made them more docile or trainable in Xenoblade Genesis compared to when they were enemies in Xenogears. Or maybe they might be enemies here, and maybe you have to do something to kind of convert them. I'm not really sure, but I think it's really cool that we could see some pretty interesting ties, especially because the timeline of Xenogears, Xenosaga, Xenoblade is a bit convoluted. If you don't actually go into the retrospectives and things like that to explain it, it's tough for everyone to kind of understand, but you don't necessarily need to play all of those games to understand Xenoblade or Xenogears or Xenosaga. But this was a pretty cool find. I do like this, and once again, I wasn't thinking about it, but this is cool. From the very beginning, you have a mount. One of the things in Xenoblade 3, there was no mounts in Xenoblade 3, so kind of took forever to get from one place to another. There was a boat or a ship that you got, but like the on-land stuff was kind of slow. So they show us here pretty much from the beginning, it seems like, because they said from an early part of the game, you're going to have a mount here. So I do like that. You're going at high speed. So that's awesome. They followed that up by saying, I mean, if Xenoblade Genesis is related to Perfect Works Episode 2 Genesis and Xenogears is Episode 5, this could be an ancestor monster to the ones in Gears. Don't care if I'm stretching, it looks so similar. And yeah, there might be a little bit of a stretch there, but I think it's fun to speculate and kind of look at different things. There's also another thing here that kind of maybe shows some ties to a Xenogears, and it says, guys, it's also Gonzalez from Xenogears. WTF. And yes, you can see in the background in this screenshot right here, it does look like that is the Gonzalez from a Xenogears. So yes, a lot of potential ties to what this is. And you know what? That's why I said you need to play Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. You need to play Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Play those games, beat those games. Look up what happens in Xenosaga Part 3. Look up all that, or play and beat the games. And man, that's what makes me so excited. I don't mind the tone shift when it comes to Xenoblade Genesis. I've seen people complain about graphics and the style that it doesn't look like Xenoblade. Guys, it's a new thing. It's Genesis. It's a whole new thing. It's a new beginning. They're going to change up styles. This might be an evolved engine when it comes to what they're doing there. So they took some liberties with that. They have anima. That is the source that powers these abilities. So to me, a lot of the things that happen in games that's what helps kind of, I would say, formulate the style or tone or shift of the visuals and stuff. So if you have certain types of powers or certain type of things, that can have an effect on the type of visuals you're going for. Since they're doing this anima thing and kind of how the characters look, they're doing something different, and it could relate to, once again, some other different games like Xenogears or something else. We just don't know. So for me, at least, I want to let Monolith Soft cook. All I know is that this is by far the best visually, like just like pure technical power visually, that any game that they've ever made that we've seen from like the beginning. Usually it's kind of rough at the beginning at times, and then they kind of shape things up. Xenoblade 3 was not bad, but we know at this point that we're not going to have, you know, like a 360p type of situation that's going on with like Xenoblade 2. So for me, it's incredibly exciting to get this level of quality, and I want to let them cook. It's not done. It's coming out next year, so there's still plenty of time. This is an early look, probably early build when it comes down to it. So when we get to see this game again, and especially next year as we get closer towards launch, I think it's going to look better and better. Now, I do want to go over another thing here as well. Some more ties. Shout outs to Mugen Lord. I did see it from his page, and also Loveless Dog. And they said this: the very obvious crashed ship in the center of the crater could very well be part of the Eldridge if you squint at it. And Mugen Lord also replied to that saying, I was just about to say that. Yo, this is not a confirmation, but you can definitely see potential connections to Xenogears. Takahashi doesn't own the rights to Xenogears, but it can't stop him from rewriting and changing things up. Bruh, I believe we're about to be in for a treat. And yeah, if you're an old school Monolith Soft fan, Xenogears fan, Xenosaga fan, obviously Xenoblade fans, this is incredibly exciting to kind of see this. The draw distance, what they're doing here, the power of the Switch 2. I said this before in a video, multiple videos actually, discussing what they're going to do next. I said that the Switch 2 will be the perfect system for Monolith Soft because it'll allow them to be able to, I would say, capture exactly what they are trying to do from a visual and artistic standpoint, which could cause some changes because sometimes you kind of formulate based off of also the hardware that you're on. But I think that the Switch 2 gives them the perfect balance. They're not the biggest team that makes these huge RPGs, so they can't really go crazy when it comes to graphics and everything. They have so much they can do because they also have to flesh out the mechanics, the systems, and all that, but it's going to give them the perfect balance to do the most efficiently. And I think that's what the Switch 2 is so good at when it comes to the DLSS and when it comes to just what it offers. They mastered development on the Switch 1. Had some rough spots with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but then able to kind of get past that a bit. That had a smaller team on it though, but Xenoblade Chronicles 3 pretty much mastered the Switch 2. They were able to really get their engine running good enough when it comes down to it and really make some nice progress from Xenoblade 2 to Xenoblade 3 from a technical perspective. But the Switch 2 is just light years ahead, a true generational leap over what the Nintendo Switch 1 is doing. So I think that is going to factor in to how this game is, and they can really just, I would say, even focus more on some of the other aspects of the game. So that's the super exciting thing about Xenoblade Genesis. Not only is the lore drops going to be there, but just the title, Xenoblade Genesis, that just makes you think of so many different possibilities of starting something new. Now, commercially, when it comes to how this game can do, I love the premise because, while yes, there's a lot of Xenoblade fans that are saying, oh, well, I don't like it because it doesn't look like X, or it doesn't look like this, or it doesn't look like that. That's whatever. I think that type of stuff just kind of dissipates over time. I think that for new people, maybe people that play Tales, or people that play Final Fantasy, or people that haven't quite got into Xenoblade yet, but they're into RPGs, this might be appealing to them. The people that play Xenoblade, they're gonna buy this game regardless when it comes down to it. And once again, they might adapt to the visuals or change their mind, just like we're seeing people with Star Fox, because Star Fox has completely changed so many people's minds on the visuals, especially after that demo. So I do think that this game can appeal to more people, and Monolith Soft is doing their best, or going to try to do their best, to make sure that this appeals to not only long-time Monolith Soft fans, because some of these ties here that we're seeing, but also appeals to new fans as well. I think that this is the opportunity with Xenoblade Genesis, because it's not called Xenoblade Chronicles, and I think that was very intentional. Very intentional, not called Xenoblade Chronicles, it's called Xenoblade Genesis. So once again, the beginning, the start, the initiation, Genesis, that's pretty much the definition of that. and you can start from here. And then if you like this, then maybe if you haven't played the other ones, you can go to the other ones. But start here, the Genesis, the beginning, and look at this new style that we're doing. Plus, look at all these other games that we have as well. If you're interested, if you like this one, you can go now and play them in better quality after you've beaten Xenoblade Genesis. So I think that for newcomers, for old school fans, there can be something here. Now, once again, not saying that it's going to be perfect, not saying that everything it's going to check out and the game's going to be a 10 out of 10 Metacritic and it's going to be game of the year. I'm not saying all that. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of potential here for them to do something absolutely incredible. And coming off of what they've done with Xenoblade Chronicles 1, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I've got the utmost faith and trust in Monolith Soft to get things done, because that's what they usually do. So what do you guys think about this when it comes to these updates for Xenoblade Genesis? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and check out my other video that I did on Xenoblade Genesis and more Nintendo Switch 2 RPG goodness right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.